Revealed, how a new nanny transformed the millionaire CEO's twin daughters with an amazing touch. Sarah stood at the massive doors of the Cole residence, palms clammy against the cool metal handle. The unmistakable scent of wealth wafted through, a heady mix of pine and polished marble. Why did a simple single mother like her, shaped by struggles and humble living, think she could step into a world like this? A quick glance at her reflection showed the insecurities she fought to mask. Could she truly fill the void in these girls' lives, or would Ethan Cole's cold demeanor repeatedly remind her of her place? It's a judgment she felt pressing down, his dismissive sneer still echoing in her mind. As she stepped inside, the expansive foyer seemed to swallow her whole, the brightness of the chandelier casting stark shadows on her doubts. The twins, Lily and Grace, appeared on the staircase, wide-eyed but distant. An unsettling mixture of excitement and fear coursed through Sarah's veins. Maybe these girls needed her as much as she needed them. They were spirited, their eyes sparkling with hidden dreams, yet burdened by an invisible weight, one their father had placed on them through his relentless drive to succeed. Art is the language of the soul, she whispered to herself, recalling her late grandmother's words as she crouched beside the twins, who held fingers poised over a myriad of colors and brushes. The delicate crease of disinterest across Ethan's forehead persisted, however, as he observed from a distance, skeptical of the authority she wielded. She wanted to shake off the weight of his judgment, but it clung to her like an unwelcome shadow. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, yet every effort she made to engage the girls seemed overshadowed by Ethan's distrustful gaze. He was a titan in the unfair game of wealth, and it frustrated Sarah that he could not see the potential blooming before him. His daughters were bursting with creativity, unrefined but real. Painting days turned into escalating triumphs tinged with tension, and Sarah began to form new connections with the twins, each brushstroke nurturing a fragile bond. Still, that tension pulsed thicker with every encounter. One afternoon, just as laughter filled the air, Ethan stormed into the room, rage etched across his face, his words cutting through the fragile ambience. "What do you think they see in you?" he spat, eyes narrow, shaking her resolve to the core. "You think they need another maternal figure when they have me?" The word struck hard. Her resolve flickered, juxtaposed against the euphoric chatter and laughter of the girls who viewed her as more than just a nanny. Battling against the suffocating pressure from Ethan's disdain, Sarah clung to the twins, who were now her light. As the days spiraled towards the opening of their first art show, Sarah's heart raced. Could one exhibition solidify what felt like a fleeting, fragile connection? Or would Ethan's insurmountable shadows snuff out their chance before it even began? Torn between vulnerability and fierce determination, Sarah laid awake each night, unsure whether she was growing with the girls or simply undermining an unseen barrier that could break them apart. In this opulent cage of wealth, she carried the weight of a question that loomed larger than any canvas. Was she worth the risk to their innocent world, or merely a footnote in their story? The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Cole residence, illuminating the studio where the twins often painted with Sarah. An air of anticipation swirled around them as the art show drew near. Each brushstroke layered in vibrant colors reflected not just their artistic endeavors but the burgeoning confidence Sarah desperately hoped to cultivate within them. Yet, despite their artistic expression, doubt still clouded her mind. How could a mere nanny and outsider unlock the doors of confidence that Ethan seemed intent on keeping shut? The more Sarah invested in the twins, the more Ethan's skepticism weighed on her spirit. Every comforting word she shared with Lily and Grace felt like a rebellious act in the shadow of their father's authority. As she gathered the girls around her for a final painting session before the exhibition, tension rippled through the air, thick and palpable. "Let us create something that speaks to who you are," she encouraged, aiming to ignite the fire she saw sparking within them. Both girls nodded, their hands instinctively reaching for brushes. Can we paint a mural? Grace asked, hope sparking in her eyes. One that shows how we feel inside. Sarah's heart warmed at Grace's expression, but her mind faltered momentarily. Murals, bold and ambitious, would require immense courage. Was she ready to embrace this leap with them, to defy Ethan's critical gaze? Absolutely. Let us do that, she replied, masking any uncertainty and rallying her energy. She was becoming a component of their emotional lives, but navigating the fragile dynamics with Ethan was becoming increasingly complex. With every step towards building their vision together, Sarah secretly yearned for validation of her worth from Ethan. How many times had she heard that art should be seen and heard, not buried under the weight of a corporate empire? As the day of the exhibition drew near, Sarah found herself baffled by how quickly things had unfolded. The twins' artwork shimmered with the hope and vitality she had encouraged, yet the dawn of the event hung heavy in the air. The upcoming judgment from the elite community, harshly eyeing their creations, felt imminent. Ethan's disapproval loomed like a predator waiting to pounce. What are you thinking? His voice boomed as he stepped into the studio, arms crossed. Their children, what do they know about real artistry? You can't let them think this is the path to success. Sarah's heart raced, a tightness constricting her chest. The very notion that he would undermine the girl's aspirations struck at her core. This was not just about art, it was about self-expression and discovery. Ethan, art is where their souls meet the world. It matters. Let them feel this, she challenged, stepping closer, fueled by new resolve. For a moment, his stare caught hers, unsure and cold. Then, a flash of something shifted beneath the ice: uncertainty. Doubt. Fury. It was hard to discern, but the air thickened as if a storm was gathering. You will regret this, he finally whispered, a chilling warning that echoed in her mind. Determined now more than ever, Sarah turned back to the twins, who were blissfully unaware of the collision of adult worlds beyond their canvas. She poured herself into encouraging them, fighting against the tide of doubt that threatened to drown the budding confidence it took her so long to foster. Perhaps Sarah was more than just a footnote in their lives. Perhaps this was her moment, not just as their nanny, but as a champion of their hopes and dreams. As their pieces came together, she realized it was not just a chance to prove herself to Ethan, but a way to reclaim her belief in her own worth. And yet, as the hour of their exhibition approached, a flicker of dread settled in her stomach. What if the rejection came not from Ethan but from the very world they longed to impress? Would the triumph of art prove enough? The unrelenting grip of uncertainty wrapped tighter around her heart as the countdown to their unveiling continued. With canvases awaiting critiques, the time had indeed come to confront the dependent ties that shackled them all. Would they shatter or soar under the weight of expectation? As the sun slid down, casting a golden hue across the studio, Sarah felt the gravity of the moment press on her shoulders. The canvases loomed large, not just as artistic creations but as vessels carrying the hopes of Lily and Grace and perhaps her own. The twins were busy adding the finishing touches to their mural, colors swirling together in a chaotic yet beautiful cacophony. Each stroke represented not just emotion but rebellion against the doubts that Ethan instilled. As the faint sounds of the outside world filtered through the windows, Sarah struggled to concentrate. Visions of rejection swirled in her mind, taunting her internal resolve. What if all their work was dismissed by the very elite whom she had seen swirling around the glitz of their gilded lives? A depth of uncertainty crept in, gnawing at her optimism. This was not simply about art, it had grown to embody her identity. Sarah. Lily's voice, small yet filled with curiosity, cut through her spiraling thoughts. Do you think Daddy will like it? The innocent question tugged at her heart. What could she say? The truth was a precarious balance, and it unsettled her. I think he might not understand it right away, but it's important to be proud of what you've created. She appreciated their creativity, their unique perspectives, but Ethan's harsh critiques often haunted her, a constant reminder that artistic merit was subjective. Grace piped up, but we like it. And we made it together. With those words, Sarah felt the surge of determination returning. They crafted this mural as partners, a true collaboration that bridged their hearts, transcending Ethan's looming shadow. Exactly. You both have poured yourselves into this. That's what makes it so special. In the depths of herself, Sarah recognized a ritual forming. Each time she supported the twins, she was reinforcing her own confidence too. Painting beside them wasn't just guiding their hands, it was reclaiming her voice. She had thought her role was confined to caretaking and encouraging, but now it blossomed into empowerment. Yet as the clock ticked down to the unveiling, her mind churned with fresh doubts. How would the world outside their painted sanctuary greet their work? Would it be seen as art, or dismissed as childish whimsy? The sound of a door creaking open interrupted the silence. Ethan stepped into the studio once again. This time, there was no immediate hostility in his eyes, but the tension crackled like electricity. He surveyed the mural, brow furrowing, masking whatever thoughts danced behind his rigid exterior. What is this supposed to depict? His tone was cautious, almost curious, which only amplified her anxiety. Sarah apprehensively stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. This is who they are. This captures their feelings, their dreams, and their fears. The silence that followed was thick. Ethan didn't respond immediately, but Sarah felt him studying her expressions, perhaps searching for the assurance he seemed to sense was missing. As the minutes dragged on, she searched for the right words to convince him, to evoke understanding, perhaps to bridge the chasm created by his skepticism. But more importantly, she needed to convince herself that art mattered, that this display of creativity would not fade into nothing. Art isn't about perfection, it's about connection, she said, her voice steadier now. This mural speaks volumes about their journey towards self-discovery, and what they need is your support, not critique. The tension shifted, almost imperceptibly, yet Sarah felt the air lighten. Perhaps she had finally touched a nerve within him, a flicker of recognition that the stakes of their work transcended aesthetic judgment. Yet as the minutes ticked down, doubt still clung to the edges of her mind, whispering fears of rejection that would shatter their dreams. As friends and critics arrived one by one, the anticipation morphed into choking anxiety, the atmosphere crackling with suspense. In that charged moment, Sarah was faced with her own looming confrontation, not with Ethan, but with her deepest fears about their creation. The moment of truth approached, and her heart raced. Would they reveal something transformative, or would they be crushed under the weight of expectations? As the first guest stepped into the studio, Sarah caught her breath, uncertain whether this was the beginning of something profound or the end of her gamble for validation. The air was thick with possibility, and her resolve was about to be tested like never before. Would they rise above or succumb to the judgment that awaited? As the guests shuffled into the studio, their murmurs blended into a swirling symphony of anxiety and anticipation. Sarah's heart quickened, each beat echoing her uncertainty as she watched the first admiring glances land on the vibrant mural. She shifted her weight, feeling the pressure of expectation wrap around her like a vice. Is that really their work? Someone whispered, skepticism lacing their tone. The comment cut through Sarah, raw and immediate. The spectator's response mirrored her own inner turmoil, a relentless reminder of the scrutiny they were about to face. She recalled the hours spent working alongside the twins, the laughter ringing out through their shared creativity, each brushstroke a declaration of themselves. But this, here and now, was a gamble. As more guests entered, Sarah focused on Lily and Grace, their shoulders brushing against each other, their faces lit with innocent pride. Her instinct to protect their joy surged within her. She stepped closer, determined to frame the perspective with a reassuring presence. You both did amazing. Remember that this is a celebration of who you are. Their confidence bolstered her resolve. With each passing minute, Sarah grappled with her fear of judgment, aware that what had begun as a teaching effort had blossomed into a defining moment. Amidst the chatter, she realized that this was not solely about winning approval, it was about authenticity, a joy grounded in shared dreams. Suddenly, Ethan entered, his towering figure imposing yet disconcertingly calm. All eyes turned to him, and a hush fell over the room. Sarah felt a tide of tension swell, as if everyone held their breath, anticipating his verdict. She seized the moment. "What do you think?" she asked, her voice steadied by a newfound purpose. His gaze swept over the mural, pausing on specific details, tracing the lines as if trying to unlock a hidden language. Sarah held her breath. Was he truly observing, or merely assessing for flaws? The silence stretched, and her pulse raced. After a long pause, Ethan turned to Sarah, a glimmer in his eyes that she dared not interpret too freely. "They've certainly captured their emotions," he finally said, a deliberate tone that hung between praise and critique. Pride surged within Sarah, igniting a flicker of hope. Something in his tone sparked curiosity within her. She dared to envision a path forward. "What do you mean?" she prodded gently, catching Ethan off guard. He hesitated, then continued, "It's a raw display of their experience. While it might lack conventional structure, it certainly conveys a narrative." The room crackled as eyes turned to the mural, some faces adopting expressions of contemplation. Beneath the subtle conviction in Ethan's voice, a challenge lay like a freshly turned stone, a chance for the twins to defend their art, however unrefined it might be deemed. Lily and Grace exchanged glances, emboldened by their father's unexpected support. "We wanted it to feel like us. It shows our stories," Grace declared, her voice growing stronger, infused with the tenacity Sarah had nurtured within them. The empowerment washed over Sarah like a wave, lifting her alongside the twins. Here stood an opportunity to dismantle old narratives where the legacy of critique could evolve into a shared familial understanding. As spectators began to engage more deeply, discussing interpretations and exchanging thoughts, Sarah felt the environment shift from judgment to curiosity. It was contagious, slowly seeping into her, too. But just as the conversations grew, another voice piped up, cutting through the camaraderie. "It's just a child's play, isn't it?" a distant critic observed, dismissive in tone. Doubt flickered anew, and Sarah's heart sank. Could one negative remark shatter the fragile moment? This reflected her personal struggle, the underlying belief that what she and the twins created was less than what they truly aspired. Suddenly, Sarah felt the need to rise above this challenge, her instincts sharpened like a sword. The urgency propelled her forward. "Art is subjective," she declared, louder than she intended. "It's about the journey of the artist." But her voice faltered, the challenge before her growing more daunting still. The time had come to face not only the doubt of the critic but perhaps her own fears about validation and identity. As the room grew heavy with anticipation, Sarah steeled herself. Would she reclaim her narrative, or allow her insecurities to steal this defining moment from her and the twins? The unease in the room tightened around Sarah, a palpable tension thick enough to slice through. She sensed the eyes of critics and admirers alike weighing her down, scrutinizing every word she might offer in defense of the twins. Yet, their innocence gnawed at her resolve, turning her emotional turmoil to rebellion against mediocrity. Art was subjective, yes. But her own doubts whispered louder. Who was she to stand in the face of established norms or challenges? The faces of Lily and Grace flickered in her mind, their pride shimmering like a beacon. She couldn't let a single voice dilute the brightness they had created together. "Just a child's play." Sarah fixed her gaze on the critic. "What you see as simple is a reflection of childhood, the spectrum of emotions that children live through every day." The words poured out, emboldened by a surge of defiance. As she spoke, Sarah felt a slow transformation brewing within her, no longer merely a facilitator of art but a passionate advocate for it. She grasped the essence of her role in nurturing the twins' expression, realizing that her voice wasn't just important, it was vital. She was their champion, pushing back against the dismissive comments that threatened their joy and creativity. "Not a single piece of art worth celebrating is without its depth," she continued, addressing the growing audience. "Every stroke has a story. Just as every child's play is a doorway into their imagination, their experiences." The energy in the room began to oscillate as whispers transformed into nods of agreement. Sarah's eyes sought Ethan's, searching for validation, a connection to the anchor that had once felt so crushing. He was listening, engaged, drawing closer to her perspective. Here stood a moment of revelation, not just for the twins but for her as well. She realized that for so long she had allowed others to define her worth, to decide what her art and by extension, her identity could be. No longer did I end the awkward pause, the critic shifted uncomfortably, but Sarah felt emboldened. She now had something clearer to fight for, her own understanding of value, art, and belonging. Art emerges from authenticity. It's more than aesthetics, it's about truth and expression. These girls have woven their truths into this mural, and it deserves recognition. Her heart raced with every rising pitch in her voice. Something fundamental shifted in her. She was no longer seeking approval, she was asserting a truth. An invisible tether between the twins and herself tightened, their dreams and vulnerabilities merged inseparably with her own. As she concluded, we can't afford to translate art into mere commercial success or societal approval. There was a visible shift in the audience. The seeds of doubt had begun to sprout curiosity, inviting contemplation. Sarah had fanned their flames, igniting the fundamental discourse about what art really represented. The ensuing silence felt different this time, it held promise. One critic attempted to retort but hesitated, perhaps sensing an underlying unity forming. Euphoria intertwined with tension, battles fought in silence with the knowledge that they had taken a stand. Sarah exchanged a glance with Lily and Grace, their eyes bright, imbued with newfound confidence. They were manifesting the courage she had longed to instill in them, but just as she thought they could see the tides turning, the critic challenged, but can this really be considered art? Where's the finesse? A wave of uncertainty crashed against Sarah's newfound strength. Did the lingering doubt threaten to overshadow their progress? The tension in the air thickened, her heart pounding with both fear and a blaze of determination. Would she continue in the face of this new challenge, or allow it to undermine all they fought for? With every ounce of conviction, Sarah readied herself for a response. The moment felt monumental, the stakes now higher than before, not only for the twins but for her own evolution. What would be her final move in this battle of perceptions? The weight of the moment pressed down. On her shoulder, the decision loomed ahead like a precipice. Would she take the leap or retreat? The critic's words hung in the air, sharp and unyielding, as Sarah fought against the rising tide of doubt. She inhaled deeply, tasting the bitterness of the challenge. Every instinct urged her to retreat, to shield herself from the scrutiny that lay ahead. Yet the reminder of Lily and Grace's innocent faces ignited a renewed fire within her. This wasn't just about defending art, it was about standing for something greater, something she could no longer ignore. Finesse. Sarah's voice emerged steadier than before, a deliberate cadence that reverberated through the room. She could feel the attention shift, drawn in by the strength brewing behind her words. What you perceive as finesse is often a gatekeeping mechanism designed to uphold a narrow interpretation of art. The authenticity in their work has a finesse all its own, one that cannot be measured by conventional standards. She shifted slightly, her hands now planted firmly on the podium. For the first time, Sarah felt the warmth of the audience's connection. Intrigued glances began to replace the critical glares, the tension palpable yet electrifying. This was undeniable, Sarah had tapped into something potent. Was the realization dawning on her that she was capable of more? As the critic began to sputter a response, Sarah seized her opportunity. True artistry comes from the heart, not just skill, she pressed on, no longer hesitant, but fueled by conviction. It captures the essence of the moment, the spontaneity of life, unrestrained by the shackles of perfectionism. This, she gestured toward the mural behind her, is a breathtaking doorway into the minds of the girls. Each color is a whisper of their joy, their struggles a visceral echo of their experiences. The energy of the room shifted again, moving from skepticism to engagement. She saw people nodding and murmuring amongst themselves, the restlessness had morphed into curiosity. It felt good, exhilarating to be at the forefront of this realization, to monopolize their attention and affect perceptions in real time. Was this the empowerment she had yearned for all along? Yet, with each increasing surge of confidence came the unsettling realization of vulnerability. What if this was merely a momentary shift? What if the audience's intrigue dried up, exposing the raw truth of her own insecurities. Art isn't defined by technique alone, she continued, shaking off the creeping doubts. It's a dialogue, a conversation that stirs emotions, prompts reflection, and connects us. These girls, true artists in their own right, have invited us into their world through their work. Isn't that worth celebrating? The room seemed to breathe with her, the palpable tension slackening into something more cohesive. As a few individuals in the front row clapped tentatively, others joined in, their applause growing louder, a wave of acceptance that soothed her. But just as the applause began to crescendo, her eyes caught the critic's sharp, unyielding, and now glimmering with calculation. He wasn't defeated yet, the fight was far from over. You speak passionately, but can you honestly say these girls have the depth to sustain a career in art? Shouldn't we offer them guidance rather than indulgence? His words were like daggers, precise and cold, threatening to cut through the newfound energy swirling around Sarah. That was the crux of her self-doubt. What if she had been overly defensive, blind in her conviction? The moment hung like a pendulum, its swing decisive. Here was the moral dilemma: would she continue to defend the twins purely out of loyalty, or confront the uncomfortable reality that maybe they needed guidance to hone their raw talent? In that split second, it became clear that her journey was no longer just about the twins, it was about navigating her own need for acceptance, dealing with the nagging sensation of inadequacy. Could she balance nurturing their unrefined talent while also providing the support they needed to grow? With the stakes raised, a plan began to formulate in Sarah's mind. She wouldn't just respond to the criticism, she would take this moment to chart a path forward not merely for the twins, but for herself as a mentor, an advocate, an artist. The choice to elevate the twins without diluting their authenticity loomed before her. It was a test of her convictions, a challenge to the mission she had come to embrace. She raised her chin, filled with determination. Perhaps rather than focus on what's lacking, we must cultivate their voice, give space for that voice to evolve. And just like that, the tide of the room shifted once again, giving her energy a palpable rhythm. With the roar of applause crescendoing once more around her, she felt a tentative mingling of fear and exhilaration. She was no longer just answering questions, she was shaping a discourse of her own. Tomorrow, she would seek guidance from artists, educators, anyone who could help her understand how to articulate a path forward. But for now, she stood poised, embodying growth and the promise of artistry anew. Let us redefine what is possible, she concluded, her heart racing with thrill, ready to navigate this uncharted territory. As the final applause echoed in her ears, she felt a wave of exhilaration but also the weight of the uncertainty pressing against her hope. What would it truly take to forge a new artistic identity for herself and the twins? As challenges loomed on the horizon, one thing became clear: the real battle for acceptance was just beginning. As Sarah left the room, the cacophony of applause lingered in her ears, fading into a distant hum. Each step toward the exit felt heavier, a reminder that the next chapter of her life as an advocate for Lily and Grace had begun. But doubt still nipped at her heels. Could she live up to the expectations that now seemed so monumental? Determined not to let the critics' words haunt her, she ventured to her small studio that felt both like a sanctuary and a cage. The walls adorned with her own art pieces that had always been personal, yet now felt insignificant compared to the revelation she had just experienced. She paced, the ambient noise of the city creeping through the window, hitting her with sporadic bursts of honking and laughter, serving as a contrast to her internal chaos. Cultivate their voice, she murmured, replaying her own declaration in her mind. It was empowering, but what did it mean in practical terms? The twins had a raw talent, one that needed refining, something she felt completely unprepared to guide. Was she arrogant to claim she could help them flourish? As that thought festered, she took a few steps toward her easel, reaching for a blank canvas. With a deep breath, she dipped her brush into vibrant colors, letting the strokes flow freely. Instead of crafting her next masterpiece, she found herself painting a vision, the twins, standing before an audience, their art captivating everyone in the room. Freedom, the same freedom she had hoped to reclaim for herself. But alongside that image also floated her nagging fear. What if she failed them? What if her pursuit of their artistic independence overshadowed their need for essential guidance? The pressure of managing her responsibilities loomed large, and each stroke felt like a reminder of the stakes. After hours of painting, her phone buzzed, breaking her trance. A message from Lily. "We need your help tomorrow. Met some awesome kids who paint. Wanna join?" A swell of warmth overcame her. The twins were actively engaging, seeking connections, and pursuing their passions without hesitation. They needed someone who believed in them. It was in that moment Sarah seized upon a revelation. Her role as a mentor would not simply mean guiding them in their craft but fostering their environment and nurturing network of collaboration and exploration. With newfound resolve, she grabbed her phone, typing back quickly. "Absolutely. Let's take it to the next level." Sleep eluded her that night. Her mind pulsed with ideas, ranging from creative workshops to exploring social dynamics within the art community. Could this be the strategy to unlock their potential? She desired to introduce them to other artists, mentors, people who could challenge and inspire growth. Just as she was starting to learn that in the morning, as the sun broke through the clouds, she sat at her desk, lists of potential contacts sprawled before her. Each name brought with it a new possibility, collaborations, and the chance for growth not only for the twins but for her. Her heart raced as she crafted an email to a local art educator, someone she'd never met, whom she knew had been successful in community-based projects. The world of mentorship was not one she had navigated before, but she was ready. It was time to step into this new role wholeheartedly. However, lurking beneath her excitement was an undercurrent of apprehension. What if she was overstepping? What if they weren't ready to expose themselves in front of seasoned artists? She shook her head, dismissing the notion. There would always be fears to mitigate. Taking risks was part of the journey. As the hours passed, she found herself spiraling into thoughts of the critic's accusations once more. Perhaps he was right in some regard. The twins needed structure, but that didn't mean sacrificing their essence. She could guide them, shape them, yet maintain their artistic identity. It was a delicate balance she would need to master. That evening, Sarah's phone buzzed with a reply from the art educator, an enthusiastic response asking for a meeting that week. A wave of exhilaration washed over her. This was a crucial first step. She could feel both the thrill and the weight of anticipation swirling together, illustrating the precarious path she was treading. Looking at the empty canvas in her studio invoked a sense of hope. This was not just about the twins, this was about forging her path as someone who would not only advocate for their journey but redefine her own identity in the process. Yet just as she felt elated, a worrying thought struck her. What if her ambitions overshadowed their voices, quelling their spark? Adrenaline surged through her as she faced the harsh reality that accompanied her rise. This was only the beginning. The first step on a journey paved with unexpected challenges. Little did she know what would arise in the coming days: decisions that would test her resolve, confrontations that would challenge her worth, and ultimately, revelations that could redefine her perception of success. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah felt the weight of impending change bearing down upon her. And with that, the next day loomed like a storm waiting to break. Would she be prepared to navigate through the tempest awaiting her? The glow of dawn crept through Sarah's studio window, casting soft light against her paint-splattered walls. Today was the day, the first real step into an unknown realm she was both eager and hesitant to explore. The twins were counting on her, and the gravity of responsibility pressed heavily against her chest. She took a deep breath, pushing aside uncertainty to embrace resolve. The anticipation of meeting the well-regarded art educator loomed over her thoughts, acting as both a promise and a challenge. Would the educator see the potential in the twins that she had witnessed, or would he emphasize their shortcomings, echoing the critic's voice in her mind? After a quick breakfast, Sarah dressed with care, a simple choice of clothes that felt more practical than expressive. Would professionalism help forge the right atmosphere, or was it just another mask she wore to hide her insecurities? She grappled with these thoughts as she stepped out into the rush of the city, arms cradling a folder full of ideas, sketch proposals, and her vision for the twins. The art studio where the meeting was set to occur buzzed with activity, a creative whirlwind of colors and sounds. As she approached the entrance, doubt pulsed through her veins. Perhaps she should have prepared more, researched the educator thoroughly, or even rehearsed her presentation. Steeling herself, she pushed the door open and entered the lively space. Instantly, she was swallowed by the vibrant ambience. Canvases in various stages of completion lined the walls, and she felt her breath catch at the sight of art in its raw, expressive state. Art wasn't just about the final product, it thrived in the process, the exploration of ideas, much like the journey she hoped to embark upon with Lily and Grace. As she scanned the room, she spotted the educator animatedly speaking with two young artists. With their bright expressions and animated gestures, she noticed how their eyes sparkled with passion. She wanted that for the twins, a space where their unique voices could resonate and flourish. "Sarah! You made it!" The educator's rich voice cut through the atmosphere, drawing her focus. She took a moment to absorb his presence, a man whose reputation preceded him, known for nurturing young talents and transforming their raw capabilities into polished artistry. "Thank you for meeting with me," she replied, trying to sound assured. Her pulse quickened as nerves threatened to rise, but she plunged ahead. "I'm here to discuss a couple of talented twins I'm mentoring." "Let us hear it then." He smiled, and she noticed how genuine his interest made her feel respected. Encouraged, she laid out her ideas, articulating her vision not just for the twins but a foundation they could build together. She painted a picture of workshops, collaborative projects, and explorations into their artistic identities. The educator listened attentively, occasionally furrowing his brow at points of complexity and expression. Yet, it was the questions he posed that pierced through her confidence, questions about the twins' backgrounds, their creative interests, and possibly even their emotional landscapes. How could she access what lay beneath their art without erasing their individuality? Each inquiry sent ripples of doubt through her. Did she have the insight? Was her advocacy worthy? The subtle undercurrent of his probing felt like a subconscious challenge, one that magnified her insecurities. But right then, she discovered something. It wasn't just the twins that needed to grow, it was herself. She hadn't realized until now how important it was to remain vulnerable in her mentoring, to engage in open dialogues where ideas clashed and convoluted pathways emerged toward clarity. With a steady breath, Sarah resolved to approach the rest of the meeting with raw honesty, revealing not just her aspirations for the twins but her own fears and doubts. She needed to embody the journey she wished to provide for them. As they transitioned into a more personal discussion, Sarah felt an unexpected camaraderie developing. She began to see the educator not just as a mentor but as a collaborator in this unique journey they had embarked on together. Lost in conversation, time slipped away. By the end, he agreed to come meet the twins, promising fruitful insights and a chance to evaluate their potential directly. Leaving the studio, Sarah felt exhilarated and anxious all at once. The elevation of her ambitions mingled with nagging fears of inadequacy. The acknowledgement of her own growth was a double-edged sword. It brought newfound strength but posed a disturbing realization of her challenges. Moments later, on the bustling street, her phone vibrated in her pocket. A message from Lily: "We're so excited for your ideas. Can't wait to show you our new paintings." Excitement surged through her veins. She was about to introduce the twins to new influences, but deep within, something shifted, a realization that submerged uncertainties were merely stepping stones in her development. As she looked onward into the sea of people, the path ahead seemed daunting and thrilling all at once. What ramifications awaited them, and how would they handle the scrutiny that could either undermine or uplift their creative journey? She felt the pulse of urgency and potential danger thrumming within her, understanding already that the easy roads rarely led to true discovery. The moment for pivotal decisions was approaching, and even though she yearned to shield the twins from scrutiny, she now knew that the turbulence of true growth was necessary. A new world approached, the unknown, yet beckoning. Would Sarah be able to safeguard their voices amid conflict, or would the pressure of expectation threaten to drown them all? The early afternoon sun bathed Sarah in warmth as she walked through the city, her heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of pedestrians flitting by. With every step, the pulse of uncertainty morphed into a simmering determination. She wasn't merely an advocate for the twins, she was stepping into a realm where she had the power to ignite their voices and creativity. Yet beneath that burgeoning confidence lurked a shadow of impression would she actually be able to deliver. As she reached the art supply store, she felt the familiar flicker of inspiration. Rows of colors beckoned her, calling her to reconnect with a vivid part of herself that had long lain dormant. She hesitated at the threshold, grappling with her desire to buy materials for the twins. Was it a worthwhile investment, or would it become yet another tale of unfulfilled intentions? Instead, she stepped inside, allowing the atmosphere to envelop her. The scent of paint and canvas, mingled with the chatter of fellow artists, filled her lungs. She knew she needed supplies if she was going to envision the twins' artistic journeys realistically, but somehow, making that decision felt more significant. Then, in a moment of clarity, she scoured the shelves, selecting brushes and paints while solidifying her plans for an upcoming weekend workshop, a space where Lily and Grace could explore their artistic identities more freely. Each item she chose felt like a testament to her commitment, a declaration to herself and the twins that their artistry would not be stifled. With her supplies in hand, Sarah scrolled through her phone during her walk back, contemplating the messages she'd exchanged with the twins earlier. Their enthusiasm was palpable, but with it came the weight of expectation, both theirs and her own. What if the shadows she fought to dispel in her mind seeped down into the workshop? Could she expose her vulnerabilities while maintaining their trust? That night, as she arrived home and spread her supplies across the dining table, her eyes caught the glint of a paintbrush. It was a reminder this endeavor wouldn't just be about teaching but about shared discovery. She would reveal her artistic journey alongside them, a mentor not just guiding but creating in tandem. But doubts crept in. What if the educator's insights forced her to confront weaknesses in her technique? What if they revealed her struggles as an artist? The fear of failure choked her excitement, tightening her chest. In an act of defiance against that anxiety, she grabbed a canvas and started to paint. Each stroke began to ease the tension knotting in her stomach, offering clarity that had felt elusive until now. She painted not just for the twins but for herself, re-exploring her voice in a way that felt raw and authentic. As the colors collided, each movement became a release, a cathartic surrender of her insecurities. This was not merely about creating art, it was about forging a new identity while forging connections with the twins. Just as she completed her first piece, a swirling blend of colors that represented both chaos and harmony, a sharp notification from her phone broke her concentration. It was the educator again, requesting a more substantial discussion about the twins' uniqueness and what they might encounter moving forward. A mixture of adrenaline and dread coursed through her. She gazed at her painting, feeling the weight of expectation settle back onto her shoulders. This meeting could alter everything: the path she paved for the twins, her growing aspirations, and her evolving identity as an artist and mentor. In that moment, she understood that the growth she sought required grappling with discomfort, the uncomfortable truths hidden within her, the raw edges of her insecurities alongside the twins. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated, yet they glimmered with the potential for transformation. With a measured breath, Sarah envisioned what lay ahead, knowing that navigating these emotions would either bind her closer to the twins or threaten to unravel everything she had worked for. As she settled into bed, restless thoughts whirled in her mind, and a new idea began to form. The workshop was a starting point, but the real journey might require something deeper: a collective commitment to exploring their vulnerabilities together. It was a bold approach, fraught with risk, but also soaked in promise. What would happen if she used every encounter, every emotion, as a catalyst for evolution? How would they respond to life's complications together, not as individuals but as a collective entity skillfully carving their identities? Tomorrow would test her resolve, demand her courage, and direct their artistic exploration, but the question lingered: would she be able to truly open herself to the evolution of her relationship with the twins, or would the barriers of expectation thwart their collective growth? Days turned into weeks, and Sarah found herself navigating a complex web of artistry and mentorship, a journey that had morphed into a defining chapter of her life. She fought the currents of anxiety with every step. The workshop for Lily and Grace had unfolded beautifully, a vibrant space where creativity flowed unrestricted, where each brushstroke mirrored not just their individuality, but a shared journey of growth. Yet, the lingering shadows of self-doubt persisted, whispering questions about her worthiness as a mentor. As the workshop thrived, word began to spread, transforming into community whispers that were neither dismissive nor superficial. The twins had flourished, their artwork gaining recognition not because of their last name or their father's wealth, but through their authenticity and expression. Sarah would find herself standing back, basking in the glow of their camaraderie. Each mural they created, a riot of colors and emotions, resonated with onlookers, doing what art is meant to do: connect, provoke, and inspire. However, the looming presence of Ethan never fully receded. He remained critical yet quietly intrigued. He would wander into the studio unannounced, the air heavy with expectation. During these moments, Sarah felt the weight of judgment pressing down upon her. Each glance he cast was scrutinizing, lingering an unspoken challenge to her capability to nurture his daughter's artistic endeavors without veering into chaos. But behind that shroud of scrutiny was something else. She sensed a flicker of admiration for the transformation he saw in Lily and Grace. The pinnacle arrived when Sarah devised an exhibition of the twins' works, setting a date that felt monumental. This was not merely an event, but a declaration of their evolution, a celebration of the journey they had all undertaken together as artists. The studio buzzed with excitement and anxiety, preparing for a display that would position the girls under the gaze of critics and admirers alike. Sarah monitored every detail, ensuring each piece resonated with the essence of Lily and Grace. The walls donned vibrant hues, testimonials of their growth, and the air held a blend of hope and fear. As thoughts of the exhibition haunted her sleep, the memory of the educator's affirmation echoed in her mind. He had told her that the term depth transcended technical prowess; it was rooted in vulnerability and authenticity. That advice opened her eyes not just to the twins' artwork, but to her own journey towards confidence. On the day of the exhibition, the world felt electric. Artists, critics, friends, and family filled the studio, the laughter and chatter enveloping Sarah like a warm embrace, but the expectation loomed larger than life. She watched as the twins engaged with visitors, their eyes gleaming with pride. It was their moment. As Ethan arrived, his presence shifted the atmosphere. He surveyed the works quietly, a storm within his gaze. Sarah's heart raced. Would this be a moment of triumph or turmoil? When he finally turned toward the twins, his expression was inscrutable, yet she saw an unexpected warmth flicker in his eyes. "Lily, Grace," he began, his voice steady yet softened, "these are incredible. The colors and emotions captured here display who you are. Your mother would be proud." A quiet ripple of surprise danced through the crowd, a palpable shift as observers realized the power of vulnerability being acknowledged. The twins exchanged glances, radiating newfound confidence, while Sarah felt an odd sense of peace wash over her. Perhaps this was the validation she longed for, not from Ethan's scrutiny, but in witnessing his acceptance of their journey. At that moment, she realized she had transcended her earlier doubts. "Ethan, thank you for saying that," Sarah replied, stepping forward, filled with newfound assurance. "This isn't just about outputs, it's about who they are becoming. They deserve to express themselves freely." The resolve in her voice felt stronger, echoing the essence of her transformative journey, turning doubt into determination. The exhibition sparked conversations throughout the night, critiques blossomed into dialogues rather than dismissals. For Sarah, it was a celebration of all the growth they had achieved collectively. Art transformed from mere images on a wall to a testament of their inner selves, a dialogue of colors that spoke louder than words ever could. Sarah watched the twins illuminate the space, bewitched by their authenticity. As guests engaged with the artwork, discussing the noise of childhood dreams and desires intertwined in every stroke, she felt her own fears recede, replaced by an unwavering sense of self-worth. This was not just their triumph, it was a shared achievement, enveloping them all in the warmth of acceptance. As the event closed, Sarah stood before the mural they had created together, colors swirling in a celebration of stories told through vibrant hues. She understood now how her role transcended the traditional. She was not only a guide but a co-creator, a mentor who had learned alongside her pupils. Each brushstroke echoed resilience, belonging, and connection, a masterpiece not solely crafted with paint, but also woven through experiences. Ethan approached her, and in that moment, a shift took place, a convergence of respect and understanding. "You did this, Sarah. They found their voices because you fostered their journey," he acknowledged, the tilt of his head suggesting not just acceptance but recognition. An overwhelming sense of fulfillment enveloped her, a realization that she had accomplished what she set out to do, not merely for the twins, but for herself as well. She had earned her place, fought through doubts, discovered her voice, and stepped beyond the confines of societal judgment. Looking around the room filled with chatter and laughter, brightness illuminated her spirit. Sarah had conquered her fears not by ignoring them, but by understanding their role in her transformation. With skill and grace, she had emerged a champion not only for Lily and Grace, but for herself. In the weeks that followed, as they ventured deeper into their artistic collaborative efforts, Sarah learned to cultivate vulnerability as strength. No longer lost within the shadows of doubt, she found herself firmly rooted in her newfound identity. This journey had been one of art, yes, but it also opened the gates to self-discovery, proving that authenticity was the truest form of expression. Stepping into the future together, as artists and collaborators, they faced new horizons with solid confidence and unshakable competence. So here's the moment that demands your action. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will continue to inspire transformation and growth. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help these empowering stories reach more people. You must comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Your inputs are invaluable, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this amazing conclusion. Your support will make all the difference in spreading these transformative narratives.